Welcome to the first episode of Next Level Thinking Podcast. Here's the beginning of a new journey for us. I want to start with an opening quote from Charles Bukowski. If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. This might mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, and even your mind. It could also mean eating for 3 or 4 days. It could also mean freezing on the park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision. It could mean mockery, isolation. All the others are tests of your endurance, of how you really want to do it. And if you'll do it despite rejection and the worst odds, it will be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling that you will be alone with the gods, and the night will flame with fire. You will ride straight, perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is. I chose this quote to start with because, well, this is the start of something big, so I decided to start with that quote. So next level thinking is something I've been working on for about a year, but I've become much more serious about it recently. It's a website. You can visit it at nextlevelthinking.net. Right now, it's what's called an aggregator website, which is a website that you can find a ton of information, and you can find, like, say, PDFs of certain books or just a bunch of articles to read, and it's about almost any topic you can imagine. And what my intentions are is it's an educational website, but I guess more specifically educational aggregator website. I have also social medias that I'm on include Facebook, Minds, YouTube, and I'm also on Patreon if you consider that a social media. My plans for the future, one of the few things that I plan on doing is making more of these. I'm going to start with 3, so this will be the first of 3. And I also plan on making videos later on. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I'm not a video editing. Maybe I'll get some help from other people, but I do know some video editing. But if you've seen my YouTube channel, you know that it's not super advanced video editing. Some of my influences for this, people who influenced me to even begin doing this, the whole NLT thing, but also the podcast. I'd say my greatest influence for starting this and also NLT is Mark Pathos. You might have heard of him, you might not have, but I think he is the best information. He has the best information on his website, whatonearthishappening.com. Others include Max Egan, or he is known also as the Crow House, also David Icke. But I got the idea to start this podcast from Pat Flynn. I'm using his guide for creating the first podcast episode. And the purpose of the podcast is a way of presenting this information to others that may not get it from, say, the website or my YouTube channel. And the podcast market, I've heard, is one of the better ways to get information out because it's a more of a niche market versus YouTube, where YouTube is many more channels than on podcasts. The knowledge that we will have on here will be trying to be as practical as possible. It won't be one of those very, very, very niche podcasts. It might be occasionally niche, like I might talk about certain niches on episodes or specific topics, but besides that, ours will be very like general practical knowledge that you could definitely use in your own life, that I have actually used in my own life. It's not just theory or extremely theoretical knowledge that you can never really apply in your life, and it's just more rabbit holes and more learning about things that you just can't really apply in your life. Like, one of the things recently that I've been trying to do is fasting, which is specifically, I'm doing intermittent fasting, which is where you fast for a certain amount of time and then you eat every day. But what I'm doing with mine is, I'm not someone who weighs a lot, so I'm doing intermittent fasting, and then I'll eat for a 3-hour window every day, or I'll eat 2 meals a day in an 8-hour window some days. And the thing about fasting is that there's a lot of recent evidence to suggest that it is beneficial for just everyone, not just for weight loss. That's one of the common misconceptions, and actually I've even heard that you can gain weight by fasting if you do it incorrectly. The thing about fasting is it's not some fad diet. I mean, some people who fast might do it because it's popular or becoming more popular, but it's been around for about at least 4,000 years, possibly even before then, because even tribal peoples and, say, even the beginning of civilization, such as like with Egyptians and the Sumerians and the Indus Valley civilizations, before even them, people would fast because, well, they didn't really have much of an option, because you could only find food during certain times, or you just couldn't find food enough. There wasn't grocery stores, you couldn't drive places, there wasn't even agriculture, so you always had to be on the move for food, or otherwise it would mean death. So you couldn't just refrigerate your food, go to the grocery store, or anything like that. You really had to go out and get your food, which means it was difficult sometimes to find food for even many days. But when agriculture came along, people with such an abundance of food, generally anyways, there was a huge abundance of food compared to hunter and gatherers. So that means that people decided themselves to start fasting instead of just doing it by basically starving. So almost every religion has fasting as part of their belief system, or at least certain parts of the religion. Some religions are more serious about fasting or require fasting. One of the number one religions that is very important to fast is Islam, and in Islam you have to fast for a full month, and there are exceptions during Ramadan, such as if you're a child or if you're an elderly person or if you're traveling. But if you are traveling, then you have to fast for the duration that you are going out for during traveling. So in certain situations, you don't want to fast. Like, say if you were going out, and say if you were exercising outside or working outside for long hours, you would make sure that you don't want to do a dry fast during that. I don't know if dry fasting is a thing. I think some religions do it and some cultures do it, but I haven't seen much information that suggests that would be beneficial. So I wouldn't recommend dry fasting. When I mean fasting, I mean going without any food, and it could also include coffee and tea. Since it does have calories, your body would start to digest it. But a lot of times when people drink coffee, they'll add like sugar, milk, and creamers. Those would break your fast. When I practice fasting, I don't eat anything until the time is to break the fast, which is why when you break your fast, it's called breakfast, because that's when you break your fast. The first meal of the day is called breakfast because you were fasting when you're asleep. Since you can't eat and sleep at the same time, everyone fasts every day. Even if you're someone who eats literally 24/7, but even if you eat every single moment when you're awake, you have to sleep. So when you're sleeping, you are fasting. It's not that difficult to fast. You do it every day. You got to think about it that way. For me, fasting has not been that difficult. Fasting is not always easy for everyone though, and it's not recommended for everyone. You have to do your own research on that, and I have information on my website that could help you. You want to make sure that when you are fasting too, that you eat healthy foods instead of, say, maybe fast food or anything that everyone knows to be unhealthy, like anything that's super processed. What I'll eat during my fast is I eat a wide variety of foods, and I also eat the same amount of foods when I'm fasting as when I'm not fasting. I do eat a vegan diet. I know some people say that might be bad, but I just look at it from the moral perspective, and to me, that's just good enough on its own, is the moral perspective, because I know that, and I know for sure, I don't see how anyone can justify this, just being honest here, how you can justify either killing it on your own if you were, say, a hunter, or funding the support of animal slaughter, because it's been proven by many scientific information that animals have feelings, they feel pain. So if you don't want it done to animals, don't do it to you. And animals also feel, and there's even evidence to suggest that eating meat is not very good for you, in matter of fact, and that depending on also how you raise the meat also, because evidence suggests that if the meat was made by putting an animal in a small cage, like it normally is for most meat in factory farms, put them in a small cage with food that is such as corn, which is not natural for, say, like cows or really most animals. They're just fed corn, and that's not their natural diet. So it's completely unnatural for them, and then they suffer for their entire lives, which causes a ton of stress, and they suffer, and then guess what? They're killed, and that also causes more suffering. because a lot of times it's not even like a quick death. It's a slow and painful death. You can watch on videos or documentaries such as Earthlings. They will not always kill them just immediately a lot of times, and they know animals, you can see this on videos, animals know where they're going when they're in the cages to be brought to the farms. They know that they can see themselves where they're about to go. They can smell it, they can hear it, they know it intuitively that they're about to be put somewhere where they're going to be killed and enslaved. That is why I would personally not eat meat. And it's also true for dairy as well. There's a lot of torturing that goes on, even if they aren't killed, but they're always eventually killed because there's money to be made in meat and not just dairy too. So they're ultimately always killed because there's money to be made in that. So I would highly recommend everyone who's listening to this to go and read a book by Charles Leadbeater called, I think it's Veganism and the Occult. I'll have a link to it in the podcast, and it is probably the best read that you ever read about veganism. It completely was the final straw that made me become a vegan. And also the documentary Earthlings, that is a documentary that it's a little some would say grotesque, but it is very truthful. And if you think about it, if you can't watch the documentary, then that's because you probably feel sorry and you don't want to see animals hurt, which means you probably shouldn't fund it, and you probably shouldn't go out and hunt if that's your thing, if you can't handle that sort of thing. So those are what I would recommend: Earthlings and Charles Leadbeater, the Occult, and Vegetarianism. So those are the two I would recommend for that. So that is for fasting and veganism. Those are two things I would recommend. I know it's not the most scientific thing in the whole world to be a vegan. There is evidence for it though recently. It's a growing movement, so it's not like I'm the only person in the world is doing it. And I felt like it has really helped me actually as well with my health. And it is true that most vegans are more aware of their health than others, but there are some vegans who are not healthy because you can just eat, say, vegan cookies, crackers all day long, but you're not going to be healthy from that. And I wouldn't recommend just going vegan and then start eating junk food that's vegan, because then you're gonna probably go back to eating meat because you're gonna be feeling unhealthy and you're gonna feel like, well, I felt better when I ate meat. That's because you ate junk food. What I did was I basically did some fasting, because one thing that fasting does, or I fasted before I became vegan because I didn't like fruits and vegetables at all, really, which is funny now saying that because that's almost all only thing I eat. But so I fasted. And when you fast for a long duration, you crave food naturally. And you'll crave food, and food tastes better after you fast. So foods that you might not have liked originally, you'll start to eat. So I would go on a long fast, and then I would eat something, and I would be like, wow, I really like this. That's because your appetite increases after the fast. So after fasting for a long time, I would eat fruits and vegetables that I didn't like at all, but I was like, I'm so hungry right now, so I have to eat, and I'm going to eat this. I'm going to make myself, I'm going to use some discipline, and I'm going to force myself to eat this that I don't want to eat. I did that for about 2 months, and then I eventually was able to do some researching. That's another thing you have to do, is research, so you know what foods and things such as that to eat to transition. But I did just quit one day. I did cold turkey, eating meat one day, and I don't regret it since. I actually like a lot of the foods I eat now more than foods that I ate before. So yeah, that's about fasting and veganism. That was a little taste of maybe what my episodes would sound like. I don't know if I want to do like certain topics on certain episodes, but that's what I'll probably do. But I needed to kind of get some, say, a gist for what it would sound like to do episodes. And so if you go on my website, you might hear some clicking noises, so just bear with me for a moment. If you go on my website, nextlevelthinking.net, and you might hear some typing too, you'll see it says Next Level Thinking, and this is also mobile compatible. I tried to make it look as presentable as possible for all devices. You'll see this is homepage. I made a video about this. If you want to see it, I'll link it in the description. So you'll see the website preview. It's also on the homepage. You'll see it. The first link on there is the website preview video. And then there's About Us, which is just me for now. And then you click on my articles, you see my articles. I might do something with this more, but this is just some like random thought. And then you'll see the podcast is where I'll have these episodes at. I'll have it on my Buzzsprout and also on my website. You'll see a test podcast there, and you'll see this podcast there for sure, and some other future ones. My videos is where I plan on putting videos. I was trying to do book reviews, but I didn't really like that, but I put them in there anyways for Think and Grow Rich and some law of success. And then have quotes. I like to collect quotes. It's kind of a hobby thing. Some really good quotes in here. I'll read a couple for you. Let's go for the shorter ones. There's some really long ones here. Here's one. Hurt me with the truth, but never comfort me with the lie. Anonymous. No man is free who is not master of himself. By Epictetus. If you learn music, you'll learn all there is to know. Pythagoras. Don't wait. The time will never just be right. Napoleon Hill. There is no path to peace. Peace is the path. There is nothing to fear about the imminent collapse of the global financial prison. David Icke. There is nothing more frightful than ignorance in action. By Johann von Goethe. Either war is obsolete or men are. By R. Buckminster Fuller. So those are some of the quotes that you might hear. On the recommended media page, you will see this is also some more of my influences. You will see a little disclaimer that says I do not agree with everything said by the content of the media, but it may expand your understanding, and it's updated monthly. So on the first column, you'll see websites and Facebook pages. Start with What on Earth is Happening, and it goes all the way down to Piercing the Veil. Channels, you'll see 1719L, and goes to Eric July. Musical artists, you'll see Beast 1333, goes down to Firecracker. And then videos, you will see the disclaimer again, and you'll see videos YouTube playlist. You can click on that link, or you can watch it on a video player that I've embedded into the website. And then you'll see some movies. I can't upload movies for free, obviously. That would cause some problems with copyrights. And then articles, you can click on the articles archive, and it goes to a website called Digo, and it's basically a website that I post my bookmarks. It's not just articles, but it's mostly articles. And then you'll see, if you click on the first one, you'll see the archives, which are also the new ones as well. And then if you click on the second link, you'll see articles that I read, and it shows you when I read them and stuff, and you can comment, like, and do things such as that if you have an account for Digo. Then music, you'll see disclaimer, and you will see that I have a playlist for music that's I guess you could say conscious music, and I have a Deezer playlist and a Spotify playlist. I recommend Deezer over the Spotify playlist because it doesn't always get all the songs on Spotify, but the Deezer playlist has all the songs, and you can get an account for free on both of them, so you don't have to pay for any of this. And I'm not sponsored by them either. I'm just saying that this is what's on the website. And then on the book section, you'll see books, and some of them you can download. I try to find PDFs. I don't want to get into copyright issues though, so I mostly get it from websites such as Archive or from EDU website, because I don't want to come into copyright issues. And on the contact donate mail list, you'll see the PayPal donate button. You click on that, it will allow you to donate to PayPal, and you'll see my Next Level Thinking YouTube channel, and you can subscribe. You just click on the button, or you can click on the Next Level Thinking, and it takes you to the channel. And then you'll see the Facebook. You can like it, send a message, or click on the Next Level Thinking to then go to the Facebook page, and then there's a Minds, and then the Patreon. And then you can also contact me through the email list here. Subscribe for updates, and if you enter your email address here, you'll get on